This podcast is for singers who have music in their soul and want to be in the spotlight. We are INVICTA Vox Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of INVICTA Vox Radio. As always, we are your hosts, Mike and
Angie Lee.
And today we are talking about building your audience, part 3.
Part 3 of the arc. And I'm thinking we can really finish this concept up with this one.
Yeah, I think we can
Yeah,
finish
we
it
can
up.
do it.
But in order to finish this, we're not going to recap any of this stuff that we've talked about previously.
So if you're jumping in now, you better go back 2 episodes to part 1. Listen to all of it.
Yeah, listen to them in sequence.
Yeah.
Binge on it.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so we did talk about these 3 levels, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, engaging, and moving.
Now let's pick up there. Let's talk about how that's all gonna come together and work for us here. How we're gonna make it work.
Yeah. So really, it's not how do you make it work, but more how do you move from one level to the next to the next. And
because everyone starts out at level 1. Guys, you're all gonna start out at level 1. If you by chance put out something that is moving people and it's your first post, good work. You have like an almost 0% chance of that happening.
Yeah, and really, you shouldn't be discouraged. Like, I know so many people who are like, oh, why am I not getting any traction?
Nobody likes my posts.
And it's like, yeah, you just got to gain more experience and get better and better at it. You can't ever judge yourself based off of the first thing that you ever do.
Well, not only
crazy.
that, but it's not just getting experience, because that's true. It's part of it is getting experience, but it's also being more aware of what you're actually posting. And then actually looking at what people are engaging with, because cool thing about social media right now is you can actually track that. You can track who is liking what and what posts are doing better than others and look at your analytics, and you can do all of that. That's a whole other thing. But just knowing and being aware of what you're putting out and what you're trying to achieve with your posts is magic. And so these 3 things, moving your stuff from being interesting to engaging to moving, that's the game. So if we can start to be aware of how to do that, how to move it from just being interesting to people where they're just glancing at it for 2 seconds and moving on to being something that actually matters to them. So let's kind of talk about that. The way we kind of like to break it down is into a spectrum of your tangible things that you can do to make things more interesting to people and your intangible things. And we like to grow those things so that we can achieve level 3, right? So that we can achieve that connection.
Yeah, and I know that sounds very obscure.
It sounds kind of
hard
convoluted.
to connect. But
here we go. Let's break it down.
Just think about it in this way. Okay, first you're going to start out is interesting. And the difference really between interesting and engaging is the level of quality that you're bringing to the table, or the level of connection
and vulnerability
that you're bringing to the table. So again, things that you can do to increase this, it's going to sound obvious, but like better lighting.
That's a tangible thing. It's something you can touch and change, right?
Like if you're not paying attention to that, that will increase the quality of a video, right?
Right.
And obviously, if it's just songs, that's not what we're talking about, but just relate this in the same way, and we'll bring this around to each thing. But
and this works for pictures too, you guys. If you're posting still pictures, I mean, look at the quality of your lighting, right?
Right.
Another thing with the videos is the quality of sound, making sure that the quality of the sound and the production of the song is higher. That's another tangible thing that you can fix.
Right. Because again, if you're scrolling and you see a video or you hear a song and you can't hear it very well, or it sounds muffly, or whatever the case may be, it's going to be less engaging to you, or you're going to have a harder time getting into it than something that's like a little more crisp, a little more clear. The lighting's better, the background's better, the visual, right? And these are, like you said, there's these tangible things that we can do, and then some of the or tactile, and then there's some of these other things that we can do.
Yeah, another thing that's kind of more tangible or obvious is your skills. You can build your skills. So if you become a better musician, if you become a better songwriter, a better singer, all of these things as you move along and you grow yourself in that aspect, that also will drive engagement. Because if you are better at your craft, you are likely to attract more people to you.
And the other thing to go along with that is play to your strengths. Don't think that your strengths like aren't interesting to other people, right? Like I think that I've seen several videos online of people stacking cups or people chopping meat, and I will watch the whole video, not because it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to totally affect my life, but it's so
incredible,
skilled.
Yeah.
Like what they bring to the table is so skillful that I'm willing to just sit and watch somebody cut up meat 100 miles an hour, or a vegetable. Like, oh, watch me cut this turnip into 1,000 pieces in 10 seconds. And so it's engaging because the skill level is so high that you just don't see it very often. And so it draws you in.
It's an experience. You get to experience that because that skill is so great. So we're talking about the quality of your video, your lighting, your sound, the skill that you bring to the table. These are all tangible things that you can work on to increase the quality of your videos, which that alone can take it from being interesting to engaging. So people are going to stick around and pay attention to it a little bit longer and really invest in it because, wow, look at the way he chops that meat and or that turnip. And
so
again, like it's a high skill level, but usually when people do those food videos, the lighting is really good and you can see like the camera angle's excellent and all this stuff. And so it goes from being just interesting to, oh, wow, how does he or she do that? Like, how do they do that? And that doesn't mean you need to go out and buy the highest end camera that money can buy, but it does, does mean that you want to at least get a nice iPhone or something going.
Yeah.
Up the game, make sure that it looks good, it sounds good, and that you are constantly growing in skill. Because out the gate, you're not going to be the most skilled person on the internet, guys, but you can grow. And the cool thing about that is as you build an audience, people love taking that journey with you to watch your growth. So don't wait to be the most skilled person, but just know that by investing in your skill growth, you're going to also be investing in building your audience.
Yeah. And another aspect of that is uniqueness. And really what a lot of this comes to
So this is an intangible thing you can change. Your own uniqueness.
Well, your own uniqueness, but also just paying attention and putting in effort to make it unique.
Yeah.
Most of these things that we've talked about in the beginning of this, well, and really all of them, really just come down to effort. Like how much effort level are you willing to put into your content, your music,
creating,
just your art in general, whatever you put out there. And so this uniqueness factor, there's your own uniqueness. Like, hey, this is who I am and I'm authentically bringing this to the table, right? Because everybody's different.
Yeah, we like to call that your own weird. Everyone has their own brand of weird. So don't try to copy someone else's just because Billie Eilish is weird and kooky and everyone wants to be like, oh, I can be weird and kooky like Billie Eilish. That's not what we're saying. Be your own brand of weird. The reason hers works is because she was just true to herself. So now it's time for you to say, okay, what's my weird? Right. And then play it up. Do that. Highlight that. So we're still totally authentic to ourselves, but we're playing on that strength of what your weird is. And you will attract people like you, which is so cool. And because then your audience is authentically in that with you. So don't be someone else, but really look at who you are and what your weird is. And then let's bring that to the table. So that's another thing that can boost you from just being interesting to engaging people, because then they'll look at that and go, ooh, that's kind of weird. That's kind of cool. Ooh, she's like me.
Right.
I want to do that. And that's a really special thing to do. And, that brings us to the next thing.
Well, I just wanted to stick on.
Well, because this plays into vulnerability. Right.
But I wanted to hit uniqueness.
A little bit more. Okay.
Just one other thing.
Yeah.
So, yes, your own unique, but also make it something slightly different than people are used to seeing.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And this can be as simple as, say you're playing the piano, microphone in front of you, something that we've all seen a million times. Hit it from a different angle. Just come at a different angle than most people would usually come at it from. So it's not like, well, I don't have much money and I can't do all these crazy things. You don't have to.
No, just make it different.
Put in a little effort to think of something a little bit different.
Or have your friend hold your phone for you and zoom it in and out of your face. Like, do something interesting to just grab people's attention. So it's not that stationary, same old boring camera that everybody else is posting.
Yeah, you in your bedroom with your guitar. You in, pick a different spot. Try something different.
Change the lights.
Just change it up. Give something a little bit different that people haven't seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to go into
the vulnerability thing.
The vulnerability.
Well, that's the thing that's hard about tapping into your own weird, is that you have to get very real with who you are. And a lot of the time, so now we've talked about how to get from interesting to engaging. And so there are these tangible things that you can work on, and then starting to like really look at who you are and who you are authentically. And that can be very scary, because you can kind of give people this outward shell of who you are, and that's still safe because you're not giving them everything. And this is what we talk about with our performers all the time, is how do you give your best performance? How do you truly, truly connect when you're on stage with the people who are in the audience? And it all comes down to, how vulnerable are you willing to be? How wide open are you going to be to share? And that's why it's so hard to go from engaging, which is level 2, to level 3, which is moving people, because you have to throw the door open on who you are. And, that's scary, especially in the terms of social media, because anyone can take a shot at you.
Right.
At any point. And if you fully open up your heart and who you are, then what if someone hates it? That's so scary. That's so, so scary. But when we're talking about tapping into your weird and your authenticity, we're talking about you being completely willing to share who you are to the deepest levels. And that doesn't mean you have to share everything of who you are. We're not saying you have to completely expose your entire life. But when we're talking about this song, say we're just talking about one video that you're posting, and it's your song that you've poured your heart into, hold nothing back. Pour your whole self into it. Because you can tell if you watch someone who is completely open and vulnerable and willing to share and completely embracing their weird, compared to someone who's holding back. And when we see that and it resonates with us and it's the message we are looking for and it's something that we love and it aligns with our content of, oh, I want to party, or, oh, I need something to cry with, whatever that may be, when that vulnerability really, really opens up, that's when we have the opportunity to truly connect with people. That's when we have the opportunity to move someone, because they know that you've got them and they've got you. And it's just this beautiful moment of sharing. And so that's one of the best ways we can move from just being engaging into, I have now established a connection with you. I have moved your soul in some capacity, and now we have a relationship.
And one word that I want to key in on what you just talked about is an opportunity, because vulnerability is the key piece to getting to the moved category. Mm-hmm. But it won't just do it by itself. No. A lot of the times. And so like some people will sit in their room and make a really vulnerable video, and sometimes people will be moved by it. Sometimes it's just not quite enough, right? Sometimes they'll be really engaged by it, but they won't move with you beyond that point. And so that's where it creates this opportunity, though. But that is the key ingredient, is to really becoming vulnerable, to letting down your walls. And again, this isn't just like the heavy content, guys. This is even fun, to really express fun and express that kind of emotion, like, hey, I'm having a great time. You have to let down your walls. And if people are like, well, your version of fun is stupid.
It's like, well, cool, this isn't for you.
But that's the approach that you have to have. But like you said, it's scarier than what you think, because you want your version of fun and energetic and just happy and carefree to be something that other people resonate with and that other people think are cool. And so when you get the people that dog on that, it can be really hard.
Yeah.
But you can't let yourself have an out. And that's what the difference between vulnerable and not, or almost to that point of vulnerability and not is it's this concept of going all in. And that doesn't mean like tears falling down your face and you're like screaming in agony, but really letting all of you and who you really are and whatever emotion you're conveying fully come out.
Well, another way to key into that, especially when you're performing, and this is just like a true blue performance tip, and that is whatever you feel, genuinely feel, your audience will feel as well. So when you're on a stage, you are the most powerful person in the room because you're elevated. People have chosen to sit and watch you or stand and watch you, and you're usually, again, elevated on a stage. You are in a position of power the moment you take the microphone, and the audience has agreed to give it to you. So in that position of power, the most interesting thing about that is you control all of the emotion in the room by what you feel. Because you're going to convey with your body language, with your facial expressions, with how you move, all of it, it's directly primally connected to your emotion. So if you are pumped and you are allowing that to fully come through without holding back, it will directly impact everyone in the room. It energetically will make everyone feel pumped. And that's the key to vulnerability, is how I am feeling. That's how you can key in on it. And it's the same when you are posting a video. People are going through their feed and they've put you in a position of power to then communicate something to them. And so as they're scrolling through, it might be a story, it might be in the feed, whatever that is, if you are keyed into true connection to how you are feeling and then 100% okay with expressing that and not holding back, then you open up that opportunity of connection. And if it's in conjunction with a higher quality video, better lighting, really great sound, high skill level, then all of a sudden you have something magic, because your weird can then totally be spotlighted and can come through.
Right. And I think you just highlighted a key component of that, is it's not just vulnerable. Like, vulnerability can get someone to be moved. But the more of those layers you stack on top of each other at that point, that's what increases the chance of moving from engaged to moved, is you're making this really cohesive connection. You're making this really cohesive bridge between the art and what you're trying to communicate to the audience, and you're bringing the two together. And the better you communicate that with all those layers tied into each other, the more likely you are to move somebody. Like with a song, if your rhythm and your melodies and the type of instrumentation you're using and the lyrics and all of it creates this one cohesive picture, and it really drives home that emotion, then you have a real shot at moving somebody. If you're making a video, again, like really being vulnerable and letting people see the right body language with how you're communicating, and having better lighting and having a backdrop or a background or a visual with you that makes sense and that ties in with the emotion of the song. And it's this one like beautiful cohesive moment that you're able to express to somebody. And I think that's when you give yourself the greatest chance to really move to the highest level.
One of the words you just used that's really key is cohesion, because we've seen a lot of people who are putting in really high-end quality videos into really great songs, but maybe the video just doesn't align with what the song is about, and it's confusing. So make sure that there's also this cohesion of ideas and that it all comes together to just create a beautiful backdrop of art for everyone. One other thing I want to bring up too is Another way to move from interested to engaged, maybe you don't have the time to put into the higher quality stuff of the tangible things, but another thing that can swing that door is if you just start by working on your vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know, as you start to open up that connection to people and to song, that can also be something alone, and that weird that we talked about can be something that moves you from interested to engaged, or your audience from interested to engaged. So that's why at the beginning I was talking about it kind of being a spectrum, because ideally we have all of these things lined up and then we just grow. And as you grow in skill and as you grow in vulnerability and weird and all of it, we kind of transcend through to moved and to having people connect and to creating relationships. And so to bring that full circle, that's what this is all about. But it's actually getting very strategic and really trying to see from start to finish what you're trying to achieve. It's not just happenstance putting things out there, hoping that it works. Even though in the beginning, that's what you have to do. You just have to start putting stuff out, and then you course correct along the way. You get better and better and better. And we start to be aware of all of these different things that we can be doing to move towards really moving people and connecting.
Yeah. And again, it goes kind of back to what we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Don't beat yourself up if you're at the first step of this.
And don't be afraid to put something out if you haven't. It's not going to be perfect, and you're not going to hit it the first time. You're not going to hit it the first 10 times. Like,
you're not going to hit it the first 100 times. Even if you know this stuff, it just takes time. It takes time to build the skills. It takes time to understand, okay, what are some unique angles I can take? What's some better content I can bring up? What's the music that I can bring underneath this? All these things, it's really just takes time to master and develop this.
And you're going to develop your artistry along the way, and your sound and your message and everything is all going to grow together.
Yeah. And so, guys, it's the long road. It's the journey, and it's the journey that should be enjoyed. Taking each step and not getting discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged that, I'm at just interesting right now. Well, interesting is a lot better than nothing at all, because at least you're moving, you're putting something out there, and you know that, okay, once I get used to this, then I can take that next step forward. Yeah. I can bring in more. I'll have acquired more money to put into this. I'll put more time. You'll put more resources into it. Your skill, your energy, a faith and belief in yourself and what you can achieve. And all these things will build, and it just builds over time. And I mean, everything goes that way. It's that way with this podcast. Yeah. Like, we know we're I don't even know how many episodes we're in right now, but it's just going to take time for this thing to build. Right? It just takes time to build this to where we ultimately want to go. And in the beginning, you just have to know, okay, this is where I'm at right now. But in a year, 2 years, 3 years, even if people haven't gravitated to what you're doing yet, even if they're not engaged or moved by what you're doing yet, just keep pushing, keep moving along, keep taking the next step forward. Take one step, then the next step, then the next step, and then get to the point where you've built that audience and know, again, it's a long road. It's a journey. This overnight success doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
And just enjoy the process of building from one layer to the next to the next. Enjoy finding that vulnerability within yourself and seeing yourself grow in that capacity to where, yeah, maybe in the beginning it was just like you're kind of like the mouse that turns into the lion, right?
Right.
And so it's just this journey that's beautiful and cool, and ultimately that's how you're going to build your audience. Is it's just going to be taking lots of these steps over time,
but intentional steps. Not just on accident because everyone else is throwing things out, so I should do things like other people. I'm intentionally taking these steps and creating this content for this purpose. And the more intentional you can move, the faster you're going to go, because you're going to build momentum. And that's what we want to do is, compound this over time so that we are building capacity and growing and building momentum to ultimately get where we want to go. But like Mike said, there's no such thing as an overnight success story. That just doesn't happen. As much as we wish we could do that in this industry, it's just like every other industry. We got to put in the time and the effort and the growth.
And with that, I think that kind of wraps this
topic up.
So, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the comments section. If you're just listening to it, pull out that journal and pen. And here's one thing I want you to write down is one thing that you know would take you to the next level. What's one step you can take to get you to the next level? And then
being interested to engaged or engaged to moved.
Right. Or even interested to more interested.
Right.
Like what's one more thing, one little thing that you can actually implement right now that can help move that needle up.
Yeah.
And then also give yourself a little credit. What's one thing that you're actually doing well at already? So that way it's not just like, oh, I could be doing this, and this, but it's, I'm also already doing these things. Mm-hmm. And so, like, hey, there's a long way to go, but I've already come a long way.
Yeah.
So what's one step that you can take to move forward? And what's one step that you've already taken that you feel really accomplished at and that you're being successful at?
Wonderful. And with that, like, subscribe, share it up. We are trying to help one artist at a time. We love helping you guys out, and we want to help more artists along the way. So share the love.
And until next time.
Peace.